and welcome to Let's Make It Vegan. I'm Chef Fred, and today we're going to take on mock scallops. I really love this idea, and it was sent to us from Lynn out of Palm Bay, Florida. And thank you, Lynn, I appreciate that. I've actually been doing this recipe for a little over 2 years now. I've changed it up a little bit in some of the techniques and things that I've been doing, but I'm going to show you my version of the best way I've been able to come up with a wonderful tasting scallop. And we're going to also pair that with a garlic Tuscan cream sauce, which we'll be making. I won't go real into that. We'll kind of describe it and get you familiar with the ingredients and things. But what I really want to concentrate on are the scallops and the techniques into doing that. One of the things that are key is King Oyster mushrooms, are also called King Trumpet mushrooms. And these guys you'll normally find in your decent produce markets, possibly Oriental markets. You'll find them. They usually come about 3 to a package, and they're shaped like this. Some of them might be attached a little bit on the bottom or have a small little root ending, but this is the general guy. And what we're going to do is basically just slice these across in order to make something that looks very similar to a scallop. Now these can range in size from fairly large ones to smaller ones, and you're going to come up with some different size scallops, maybe some bigger ones and some smaller ones. It doesn't really matter whether it be a mock sea scallop or bay scallop. It doesn't really matter, but I'll show you just basically how we do this. We're just cutting these right along just in order to get something that looks like a scallop. And we're going to be flavoring these guys up. If you saw my intro video, I did talk a little bit about using different kinds of seaweed and sea plants in order to inject flavor into different things to make them taste like seafood. And we're going to go over that more in depth today. As far as whenever you're doing these, don't get rid of these tops. These guys are great for using for anything you're doing with a mushroom recipe. You can chop them up, marinate them in some soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and make something like bacon bits out of them. We've done that before. So definitely keep these guys. You will be able to use them in other recipes, but for now what we're concentrating on are these discs that look a lot like scallops. And what we're going to do is we're going to have these guys marinate and simmer for, I don't know, about 20 minutes, a half hour in some different seaweed mixtures. And what I have today, and I did mention this in the first video as far as wakame flakes, and these guys are just little things of seaweed. They're dried seaweed. When they hydrate, they will be much larger. And wakame is a normal dried seaweed that you can find in good grocery stores or any Oriental stores. Also, we're going to be using kombu, or the easy name is dried kelp. And these guys come in usually a bigger sheet, and as you can see, it's a big piece of kelp. It still has a lot of the salt on it from where it originated, the sea, which is really great because that's going to help give a briny flavor to our scallops. And it's really simple. What we're going to do is we're just going to take a pan that we're going to be doing the simmering in these guys, and I'll put one of these big pieces of kelp down in the bottom of here, and then our mock scallops we're just going to go ahead and dump in there. And like I said, they range in size, and don't worry about the size. If you have an opportunity to pick them individually from your market, you can go ahead and control that. But a lot of times they're sold in packages of about 3 or 4 or so. So we've got them just in the bottom, just kind of covers the bottom. And what we're going to do is also throw in a handful of the wakame flakes. And we'll just go ahead and get that in there. And we're just going to get that covered with water. Just enough so that these guys are floating a little bit. So that's all it takes. You can see they're kind of floating around in there. And then we're going to go ahead and take the other bigger sheets and put them in here. Not only putting them in here for the flavor, but that's actually going to hold these guys down a little bit because they do tend to float. So we're going to have that just set down on top of them, and we're going to put that on the stove and let it simmer for, like I said, 20 minutes, a half hour. Not a real hard rolling boil or anything, but just get it up to a simmer. You'll see the wakame flakes expand a lot, and these guys, the seaweed here, they will get much thicker and it'll look like a piece of rubber. We'll show you afterwards, but it's really cool. But whenever these guys hydrate, they really do grow a lot. So we'll get these on the stove, get the flavor from all the seaweed into these little mushroom discs, and we'll get that started. And when we come back, we'll probably brown up these guys, make them look a little more like scallops, and put together the sauce. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back now. We had the scallops simmering in the seaweed mixture, and I'll give you a little, like I told you, these things grow. That is a piece of the kelp, and those little tiny bits of the wakame turn into things like this. So as you're simmering, these things give off all their taste in there, and I'll let you know the house smelled like a seaside resort, let's say. But here is what we come up with. These guys are now cooked, and they're a bit mushy. They're definitely not as solid. Give you an idea of what these guys look like on the inside, and they are very much more like a scallop. If you've ever kind of seen the structure of a scallop, it's kind of serrated up and down, very scallop-like. So that's kind of what you're getting here. And what we're going to do is get these guys just browned up a little bit so that whenever they go into the sauce, they've got a little more of that char flavor. I'm going to go over what we are going to do for our sauce. And basically, the base of our sauce, and this is something very different than you may have seen. A lot of people will use different kind of plant-based creams or something, but honestly, I discovered silken tofu is I know it sounds crazy, but silken tofu, when it's blended up with just a little bit of plant-based milk, makes a wonderful cream sauce. It's very bland, which is great, because if you think about it, plain old milk or cream is actually pretty bland. So it's going to be a perfect canvas to be flavoring with everything that we're going to be doing in this sauce. So I'm going to be combining the silken tofu with a little bit of the oat milk. Get that to a consistency so that it's just, more like a cream sauce. And then we're going to get that on the stove and starting to simmer. And we will be adding sun-dried tomatoes, nutritional yeast, always great for adding cheesy flavor. And I have a lot of garlic here that I basically did in olive oil. And that is something that I like to do in order to develop the flavor of the garlic and get that all through without the bite of garlic. It just gives that smooth flavor, kind of like if you were just roasting it in the oven, which I also like to do a lot. Lemon juice is going to be very important to add the tanginess, to have it very similar in that cheesy flavor with the tang. Fresh oregano, always need some good fresh herbs. And I'm also going to, at the end, stir in some fresh spinach. And this is just baby spinach, and it's basically a whole 5-ounce bag that I'm going to put in there. If you've ever worked with spinach before in cooking, you know that's going to turn into about nothing by the time we're done at the end of it. So that's what's going to be going into the Tuscan cream sauce. And I'm going to go ahead and just get these scallops into a little bit of olive oil here to get some color on them. And we'll get these guys in here. Get this up a little higher. We don't want to cook them too long, but we just want to get some color on these guys. And as you can see, they definitely look like scallops. And they definitely taste like them too, with all that seafood flavor in them. Alright, we're going to go ahead and let these go, sizzle up, brown on both sides, and when we come back, I will have the sauce a little more put together for you, We'll get the sun-dried tomatoes and spinach put in, finish that up, and get plating. Okay, so while we were gone, went ahead and just got these scallops all fried up, and as you can see, they basically look a lot like scallops. The texture is 98% that of scallops. So those guys are here, ready to go. Our sauce, which basically has just been the silken tofu, about a half cup of regular plain oat milk, not vanilla, just plain unsweetened oat milk, and I did put about half a cup of vegan sour cream in here also. So this has been on here just kind of simmering away. I also put in some of the fresh oregano, just chop that up, put it in here to get it started. Also remember, in our original mixture, what was in here was about 2 whole heads of garlic that we did in the oil just to get that softened up, and that garlic oil is in here also. So what we're going to do is get this flavored up a little bit better. So I am going to take, this is about a half a cup of nutritional yeast, and we'll get about a half cup nutritional yeast in there for some cheesy flavor. We've also got some Parmesan cheese. This one's from Follow Your Life, or Follow Your Heart, and we'll just put a little handful of that in. That'll help with thickening and a little bit of texture. And I have sun-dried tomatoes. Now these are julienne sun-dried tomatoes that are marinated in basically Italian herbs and olive oil. So these guys are already cut into little strips, and we're going to go ahead and get that entire jar and that flavored oil in here also. So we've got that guy in here, and get this mixed up a little bit, get these guys incorporated. And I just have this on low. It's barely bubbling a little bit, and that will come down now once these guys get in here. So I'm just going to get these guys stirred up. And what we're doing is just going to let this on here low and simmer just to get the sun-dried tomatoes heated through where they give off their flavors, soften up a little bit, and in a little while they'll probably also get this white sauce turned a little bit pink. I love sun-dried tomatoes. They have such a great flavor to them with that little bit of chewiness. So we've got these guys in here, and you can see that change in color a little bit. Also, we've got our spinach, and while we're nice and warm here, we're going to go ahead and throw in this spinach. And until these guys shrink up, it might be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll get some in here in the heat, get them down in, and these guys are going to shrink up and cook through here. So if you think about the kind of stuff we have in here, yeah, there are some higher calorie kind of things like, you know, some of the oils, but remember the base of this is made from tofu. Very high protein, very nutritious. So you got your tofu, you got a bunch of spinach, so you're not lacking in vitamins and protein even just in this sauce. So you can see how those guys just start to cook down really quick. And we'll get the rest of these in here. And you can see now that that other cheese, that vegan Parmesan was put in here, that's starting to thicken things up also. And there's a possibility that when this sits and simmers a little bit, might have to add a little bit of milk or water just to thin it out. But I also think that the spinach is going to give off some moisture in here too and kind of counteract that once the spinach gets in. We'll wait and see. You know, we're here, we're looking at it, we'll make adjustments as we go. So we've got this guy simmering, and these scallops, we're going to wait till the complete end to put these guys in and get them through. And at that point, we'll have the pasta ready, and we'll be plating up. We'll let this guy simmer for a while, and we will catch you in a little bit. Alright, here we are. We've got everything basically finished up. We're just going to start plating. We've got our creamy Tuscan sauce with sun-dried tomatoes, spinach, some vegan Parmesan cheese. We've got our gluten-free pasta. It's a gluten-free fettuccine that we're just going to go ahead and get plated up here. Don't forget our scallops. We'll go ahead and get some sauce on here. And I did not add any liquid to this. It just thickened up completely on its own. And you can see the nice spinach and sun-dried tomatoes in there. And we'll go ahead and put on some of our scallops. And those guys are looking pretty good in there. We've got our scallops, sun-dried tomatoes. We do have some Parmesan cheese, and this is from Violife, and this is a great Parmesan for finishing because it's nice and hard and grates up just like your regular Parm. So we've got that guy going on here, and this stuff is wonderful. If you're ever doing a Parmesan sauce, this stuff is really good for getting in there. We've got that, and for me, I've got to add some hot red pepper flakes. We've got some pepper flakes in there, and there we go. There we've got our scallop pasta with our Tuscan creamy sauce. And I do want to thank Lynn from Palm Bay for suggesting the scallops. I know I just did a little bit more than the scallops, but I wanted to show it in an application that will really make it stick out, and also show you some other techniques in using some ingredients for sauces that you may not have thought of. I thank you for tuning in, and definitely subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when the next one comes out, because we're trying to get 1 or 2 of these out a week. And put your suggestions in the comments, and who knows, we might be able to make your choice a dish just like we did for Lynn today. Once again, thank you very much. Subscribe and like, and we'll see you later.